welcome to another edition of Moke and Friends. That is my first time starting off by saying welcome to another edition. I have not found the proper way to start it off because I'm just like I'm still like awkward, so it's always awkward for me.
It is. Sometimes it can be awkward, but it sounded
Yes.
great.
Thank you. So welcome to another edition of Moke and Friends. It is Moke and Nikki Davy. Nikki D, how are you doing?
I'm good. Hello, hello. Thank you.
Thank you for thank you for being on here first and foremost. And second of all, I've wanted to, I guess, talk to you for a while. And third of all, I knew for some reason I wanted to talk to you, but I was always scared because I knew I would kind of have to have some type of shit together.
What?
Like I
You
feel like
always say that too about like free thinkers. You're like, yo,
yeah,
y'all be knowing what y'all be talking about.
yes,
Like
yes.
so much of this conversation is freestyle conversation though. You know, it's just based on experience. Like and we've been talking about you and I having this conversation for a long time. So I'm
But
like, about fucking time.
I feel like I feel like I just play too much. I don't know.
I got you, and I definitely don't have the most playful tone about me, so I feel that. But you know, no, we could talk about anything. I can talk about usually anything with anybody. Look, I be watching your show, and I'm like, I don't know shit what they talk about.
But
So
what I will say is you are an easy person to talk to.
okay,
Because I will say that there's been a point in my life where you talked me off the ledge. You know what I'm
right,
saying? So and
hmm
that was off of me not even really knowing you. You know what I'm saying?
nothing,
So
yeah.
you are an easy person. So what I mean is that I want to not sound stupid. I want to.
No.
I, I, I don't know. Like I said, I just feel like I play too much.
No,
But
I got you. Look, I came on tonight and I was nervous. Like I don't have no reason to, but I was like, oh my
why?
god, exactly. So I said the same thing to you. So
I'll take that.
that's how that go. You know. So I'm excited to have a conversation with you. And then when you shot me a little, heads up, I was like, all right, that's what's up. We're gonna have an interesting conversation. Like, and
Yeah,
I'm all about having a good conversation. So.
you are. So, let's see. Where do you want to start?
It's up to you. It's your show. You
All
tell
right,
me.
let's. I know, but I always try to give the guest some type of,
Well, you can
but
tell how we know each other, like where we came from, how we are relevant to each other,
how are we?
social media. Somehow through social media on Facebook, we just person, no person, and like I literally have no idea like who the original person may have been, but
Me, me
it's
neither,
just through
because
Facebook
I've known you for, I've
for
known
like
you
years.
since, yeah, it's like since
Yeah,
I
it's
lived in the
been
islands
years.
and everything.
Yeah, like I think I met you, or I think I met you like before you moved to the islands, and
Yeah,
then was a period of life was happening and shit, and you went to the islands, and I didn't think you was ever gonna come back, right? But like, so it's been a minute, but it was literally just through social media. Like,
wow,
yeah, ain't that a trip?
that's weird.
But that's how the universe works, though. That's what I always chalk shit up to is.
So do you think that social media? Do you think life would be better with or without?
I think it could go both ways. Like we talk about this on Free Thinkers a lot. I mean, there's a lot of pros with social media, but there's a lot of cons with social media too. So I mean, it's a tool that has to be used kind of carefully, honestly.
Right.
Um, but I can answer that question both ways. I enjoy it for the pros that it brings to my life, but I
Mm,
definitely identify the fucking cons to social media, even in my own personal world. The amount of time you spend on social media as opposed to other things, right? Like you can't deny that.
right. Yeah.
But the ability to meet people I never probably would meet in my day to day life, like that's dope as shit. I know some of the coolest fucking people I've never met in my life
That's
on
true.
social media. So, do I intend on meeting some of these people? Absolutely. Like I try to meet social media people that I consider, somebody that I would think is a friend or somebody as acquaintance, somebody I fuck with.
Yeah.
So I for that part I love, right? But it's definitely got some cons to it.
I dig. So me, I always say I miss the '90s because
Mhm.
I was born in '86, so my first recollection of life was in the '90s, and
Mhm.
the '90s just everything just felt right in the '90s. Like I remember my mom bitching that
Safe and
yeah, like I remember my
right.
mom used to bitch about gas being like 89 cents. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like me and my
Yeah.
brother my brother's 6 years older than me, and I always had to hang out with him, and we would be on fucking Houston Metro at like 3 in the morning.
And you
Everything was
know damn
okay.
well you couldn't let your kid do that today. Like you can't even let the
Man,
kid go out in the
please.
front yard by itself today. Like,
Man, please.
and I agree with you on that. Like, but a question that comes up, oftentimes when that type of conversation is had is, did we have the same type of problems then? Did we have the same volume of problems then? Did
Well,
we just not hear about it more because it was just like local newspaper was our source of
I I I
information?
I think that motherfuckers always will and have been like sick people, but
Right. They've
I,
always
I
been around.
I don't think we had the same problems because there wasn't social media. Like I didn't get a fucking cell phone till I was like 18 out of school.
Right, right,
My twins are 13 and they have like the newest iPhone. You know what I'm
right,
saying? So
right.
there's a lot of ways to reach somebody now.
Mhm.
Snapchat, Facebook,
Mhm.
however, versus back in the day. I mean, even if you want to say at the beginning of internet, when you had to like have two phone lines or some shit,
Right.
that was still hard because you were on the internet doing internet shit. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be
Right.
downloading music or maybe playing a fucking game, but you're really just on web pages. Now
Mhm.
with social media, like I have to force myself to go on web pages sometimes, and the only web pages I
Mhm.
go on is like CNN, TMZ, and World Star, and
Right.
maybe Rap Radar. But
Right.
other than that, I'm always looking at social media, and then when I
Mhm.
try not to look at social media, I'm just like, yo, it's boring to be on the internet.
It and it's funny because I actually this happened to me today. I was on my laptop, and generally I'm not. Usually I'm just on my phone, and I really hate that technology has allowed us to be so dependent on our phone and
Right.
make the phone so fucking easily accessible, right? Like so
Hmm.
I sat down at the table today and I got on my laptop and I was like, damn, I haven't like sat at the laptop and like put my fingers in a keyboard position and like actually like search the internet and
Yeah.
use like a mouse and like I haven't done those things in a minute, and it was a different experience. Like you
Yeah.
definitely had a different, it was just different than being exclusively on a phone. So yeah, I feel you on that. I definitely feel you on that. I miss the '90s too. There's a lot of things about the '90s I miss. um I miss the human aspect of the '90s. I
What do
miss
you mean?
the, well, just, when relationships with people were important, like when people gathered, when people, when kids knew their cousins,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
when
yeah.
lovers loved, when people wrote love songs and wrote love notes,
Letters and
and
shit. Yeah,
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 when it was okay to be a little bit vulnerable, when
yeah.
it was cool to have one chick and one dude, like when there was when there was more innocence, I think, like with kids, like
Hmm.
you just talked about your kids having phones at 13. Now you can of course have all the things on there to set it up to where they don't get exposed to shit you don't want them to see.
But but here's the thing though.
Mhm.
I had my brother was 6 years older than me, so I don't know if my mom's watching, but but I'm 34 now. But I lived a crazy life as from like 11 till
Wow.
just because my brother was
You had
six
an
years
older
older than me,
brother.
and
Sure.
most time my mom was like I had to tag along, like you know what I'm saying, if she wasn't
Mhm.
home or not. And so
Mhm.
like I was like 13, 14 in like hole in the wall strip clubs, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, wow. And
but
you could really do that back then too.
right.
You could
And
actually get away with that
somehow it was
shit.
okay and safe.
Right. Nothing bad really happened. You just seen some shit
Right.
you ain't supposed to be seeing.
For real. Like
Right.
versus now, like if my
Oh
kids sneak
God,
into a strip club,
no.
like they would probably be caught up in sex trafficking or something.
They're gone. They're getting
You know what I'm
kidnapped. Yeah,
saying?
they're
Yes.
going out in a white van in the back of the motherfucker, and like it's over. Like yes, all bad things are gonna happen. Like yeah, what happened somewhere in there?
And I think that we were a lot tougher, but we were a lot tougher for the fact that it wasn't so PC. You know what I mean? Like it was normal
Sure.
to get your ass whooped by your
Yeah.
mom.
Right.
Like it was
Right.
that shit was normal. My mom
Right.
would embarrass me at school. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
And that shit was normal. And,
Right.
and, and it was like as a kid, yes, I'm mad, but I understood
Mhm.
because and now it's child abuse. Now,
Well, because
do
sometimes it can be. Sometimes it can be. Like
right,
you know, I
right,
mean,
but it's
sometimes it
it's
can be.
it's
But
it's spanking a child abuse though.
no, I spank my kids, and if I had to whoop
Okay.
the shit out of them, I would, and I did, and I do. You know, I don't have to do those things anymore because
Right,
we have a different type of understanding, right? But no, I
right,
definitely do. But however, there were a lot of people who did grow up getting abused, unfortunately, right? But all
yeah.
all, all spankings and all whoopings is not abuse, not at all. No. Um,
Like we used to get paddled at my school.
oh yeah, like yeah. I mean, I didn't at school because they had already taken like corporal punishment out or whatever. But like from my from home, yeah, like we was finna get hit, like if it
Wait,
called for it.
when they stopped that corporal punishment?
I mean, I went to school. I was in elementary school, from kindergarten to like third grade up north. Like I was in Minnesota.
Oh,
So at that
oh,
time, like that's just not something that we had. So by the time I got
okay.
to Texas in like third, fourth grade, I think that shit was already gone, or it just wasn't no
What
shit that they
getting
did
paddled? I then they
at
must have been
school. At school.
they must have been fucking on the low at my school because at my school when I was like maybe 94, 95, like they was whooping your ass in the bathroom with the paddle.
What?
And the parents knew.
What?
And the parents
Where'd you
knew.
go to school? Did you go to? Were you here in Austin?
No, I was in Houston.
Wow, in '94 still?
Yeah, like I was
Shit.
yeah, like you had to put your
Wow.
hand out and like younger
Yeah,
than if you were in elementary or lower, they would hit you with the rulers.
with the ruler.
Middle school
Yeah.
and up, they got that fucking paddle.
Mm.
And you respected it. You're okay with it.
I
It was
mean,
normal. But
yeah.
it kept
No,
it
that's
kept
not.
niggas in check.
Well, because you knew that there was going to be, a reaction to that action that you did, and so if you
Mm,
get caught, like, yeah, you finna get pieced up a little bit. But you probably also knew you was finna get it when you got home,
yeah.
and you know, 94, 95, 96. Hell, I was on my way out of high school already at that point. But like most people I knew grew up, getting their butt whooped and getting their ass tore up. Um, but you also had different family structures set up back then too. You had
Yeah.
like the village mentality in a lot of scenarios. Even if you were,
Yeah,
let's say,
yeah.
maybe even a single parent, you still had other people who helped you with your children a lot of times. So your
Yeah.
kids knew they couldn't go anywhere and pull no stunts because everybody,
Hmm.
whereas now there's people who've lived in their neighborhood for 10 years and don't know their neighbors' fucking names.
Right. My
You know?
mom was a single mom and I know that if I went to like one of my godmom's house, like she like everybody who I went to's house would have the permission to whoop my
Yeah, absolutely.
ass.
That's what I used to tell people, when my kids, especially when my first was little, I would tell my people, like, if you don't want your kids to get touched, like, I'll put my hands on them if they cut up. So don't bring them to my
Yeah.
house. Don't ask me to watch them. Don't ask me to be in charge of nothing that got nothing to do with your kids, because I will just inadvertently reach out and pop their ass if I need to. Like, that's just my natural,
Yeah.
that's my natural reaction. I'm not going to talk you out of sticking your finger into a light socket. I'm going to pop your fucking hand and you're going to know, oh, this is not good.
Yeah.
Associate, um, but there's a lot of people who don't spank their kids, and that's fine. I'm not saying my way is the right way. I'm just saying that's what I did, and you got to back up off of people who choose to use force with their kids when that parent feels like it's necessary. And there's a lot of people who are completely anti spank and anti raise your voice and anti say bad words around your kids, and
Boy, I come
you
from
can
a
do
sailor.
I mean, I do try to be mindful of my words. Don't get me wrong, but like, yeah, my fucking kids hear me cuss. Like, it's just part of my language, and I'm not, Now, is it like every word? No. Do I necessarily talk to my children like that? Not really. But in conversation, hell yeah, I throw in some cuss words. If you're
Yeah,
getting like, if you've gotten in trouble and I'm lighting your ass
yeah.
up, yeah, you finna get
Oh
some.
yeah, a plethora, a plethora.
A smorgasbord of words.
So,
But
let's say, speaking of kids, let's say
speaking of kids,
single mom with biracial kids. But what I want to add with that, I want to add, how is it being a single mom? Single mom, yes.
yeah,
Single mom with
yeah,
biracial kids, black and white.
hmm
Single mom, biracial kids, but in 2021.
hmm
How is it? Just because I have twins, boy and a
right,
girl, and for me it is stressful,
hmm
but and this is like, I don't want to sound ignorant, but I still feel like we have a different fight, if that's the word I should use, because I have black and Mexican, you have black and white.
okay. How do you feel the difference? How do you feel there's a difference? Because there is, I'm sure, in
Be, be,
multiple
be-
ways. I'm just curious.
because I mean, see, this is why I don't be on free thinkers, man.
You
But
better
see,
come off the cuff like it ain't nothing.
because because it's black and white, and a lot of shit that goes on in the world is black and white. You know what I
Right.
mean? And not saying that there's any sides to choose, but there has to be more of a cultural whatever that you would gravitate to. Just like with my kids when they were growing up, like they identified as Mexicans, but
Oh
now
wow. Okay.
they're yeah, but now
Mhm.
they're identified as black.
Okay.
Like my
Okay.
son kind of goes both, but my daughter's like, yo, I'm black. You know,
Oh, okay.
and so for a kid in these days, because I know like when Columbine and all that shit happened, yeah, but seeing how all this shit is kind of going around and going on, and but your kids are homeschooled,
Well,
are they?
they've been doing the virtual thing all year.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just even before they were virtual, like there's still a lot of shit that kids go through that they would have to deal with racially now. I feel, because it's a little bit more looser again,
Yeah.
and kids kind of just say shit. Because I mean, even had to get on some kids because I've heard kids like drop the N word with the hard ER,
Mm.
and think it's funny and be
Mm.
white. You know what I'm saying?
Mm. And these are like your kids' friends, or people that like are your kids at school,
No,
school
no,
friends?
these are just random motherfuckers I be hearing sometimes, and I
Mm.
be
Mm. Yeah, you got to check that.
yeah.
No doubt. That has to be checked. So,
But yeah,
yes.
go ahead.
No, so
I
your
mean,
question being
I
how it's
really asked that question very poorly. Now that I think about
well,
it,
no, I mean you posed a great scenario. I just want to make sure I answer what you are wanting me to answer. Because you mentioned my
how
kids being
how
black and white versus your kids being
how
Mexican and black.
right? Just because of the shit that goes on.
I mean, so there's no denying that like we are in the climate in which we are, right? Like,
Right.
well, I guess there is denying. That's the fucking problem, is that too many people may actually be denying what is the truth, what is actually happening. We, however, over here live in the truth and we live in reality and what's really going on. Um, so there's no denying that we have the climate that we have. But I also am grateful that I live where I live, in the city that I live, and that my kids go to a school district that they go to, and the schools in particular that they're involved with, because it's a melting pot. Like, not to
But
say that
do they see it?
the melting pot or the
No,
or the issues.
just the shit that's going on. Is it
It's
something you talk about?
It's something we talk about because we talk about it, but it's nothing that's been discussed about as though something happened at school or some things are happening at school. Does that mean that things aren't happening? No, but neither of my children, at least my boys who are in school now, my daughter graduated, in 2015, so she's been out for a minute.
Mm.
Um, but for my boys, it's not been something we've necessarily experienced personally. But again, my kids go to a school where our community is very fucking culturally diverse and rich. And it may be the only pocket in fucking Austin that you have that. But
I was gonna ask because I went to one of my homies' place in Round Rock, and it
mhm.
was Trump the fuck up.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty of those places, but like I live in an old part of Round Rock that's still not necessarily considered a remote fancy part of Round Rock, an upper echelon part of Round Rock, and I'm right off of the highway, so I'm east of 35. So
Yeah.
like I'm in an old part of like my kids' schools are Title I schools. That means that they are low income schools. So therefore,
Mm.
the district, the area in which we live is considered a lower income neighborhood. Although the fucking appraisal district just sent a appraisal letter for our house. We're renters that said that this motherfucker's worth 309. So
Yeah.
that's low income apparently in Central Texas for real estate.
That's
Um,
crazy.
it is fucking crazy, and that's a
That's
whole nother
scary.
story. But because we are a low income school, because we're a Title I school, we definitely have a lot more black, brown, and biracial children at our school. And we moved out here, like I intentionally moved out here because I wanted them to not be the only brown faces in school. I wanted them to not be literally surrounded by nothing but fucking white kids who come from Trump
Yeah.
loving families. Like I didn't want them to be I did not want them to be exposed because that is the real world, but I didn't want them to have to deal with that extra shit. And if it meant me moving to a different part of town, since I had to move anyways, then I was going to choose where we went with intention.
Yeah.
But my son's about to start high school, so who knows what's going to happen in the high school years. My daughter growing up, of course, you've seen my daughter. She's biracial. Her dad's black, just straight black. Parents are both black. And my daughter is like sometimes just a tiny bit darker than me. Like really, she's not.
Yeah.
She's not dark at all. She's got very white girl hair unless it's really short. So like a lot of
What
people. Go ahead.
what do they identify as?
My kids, pretty positive to say they'd all identify as black. Pretty sure all of them would. I mean, they may say biracial just because it might be like the right thing to like automatically default say, but
Yeah.
I have absolutely no issue with them identifying as black. I know who their mom is. They know who their mom is.
Yeah.
I know what's been taught to them. So, I tell them identify as the world sees you. Identify as who you are. You have a black father. You are black children. Like period.
Yeah.
And that's okay for me. Like I'm
Right.
totally okay with that. Um, but my daughter growing up, because she was so fair skinned, she was so light. Like she would, she had issues with white people and black people. She was always what was she, too black for the white girls and not black enough for the black girls. So
Wow.
she had that dichotomy growing up in her life,
Yeah.
as a mixed little girl growing up. So I don't know if it's different for boys than it is for girls. Like I just haven't reached that with my sons. They're 14 and 11. So we haven't experienced it yet. But I'm kind of a walking poster child too. So I think that within the school system, if it came down to whose kids is who and whose parents is who, like, they know not to put my kids in a situation where it's going to cause me to have to respond to some shit that's going to be uncomfortable conversation
Yeah.
because I'm going to be up there. So, um, but so many kids are mixed race today.
Right. Yeah.
So many kids come from mixed race families, so it's kind of the norm depending on where you are. But I live here because that's what I wanted them to be exposed to,
Mm.
so they could
Mm.
see, that this is actually what the world's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
I just feel like it gives them a little bit of a different insight to their empathy for other people, obviously, by
Yeah.
being in a inclusive community.
Um, let's talk about Substance abuse.
Substance abuse.
Do you know anything about substance abuse?
I know a few things, just a couple of little bits and pieces, and I say that, because first of all, I'm not in recovery, so I don't want to come off as any type of representative of a person in recovery because I'm not in recovery. But that's what I come from. Like, I come from a recovering family, so like my parents got clean when I was 5, I believe. Yeah, I was 5 when I got clean because we were 8 when we got to Texas. So I come from a whole bunch of drug addicts and alcoholics that got clean.
Mm.
And then eventually, once we got to Texas, my dad decided after working as like a counselor intern for a while, because then he'd been sober for a couple of years, right? He'd been in recovery for a couple of years. Worked for, like, it did some internship at a recovery center, and decided he wanted to commit the rest of his life to being a drug and alcohol counselor. So he then went to school, got licensed in that. So that's all I know growing up is being in AA meetings, being in NA meetings, being in CA meetings, being, watching people die, watching people recover. So my family owns a drug and alcohol rehabilitation center here in Austin. My dad opened it up in '91, and he died with like 36 years of recovery. So I know a few things. I'm by no means, representative of it. Like I said, somebody in
Do
recovery.
you work there?
Yeah, my sister and I run it.
So I mean, you have to know a bit.
I'm not in recovery. I don't struggle with, personal
Right,
substance
right.
abuse. So
But
sometimes people like to know what is your relationship. So I don't have a personal relationship, but I definitely have a personal relationship. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not like some fucking guru. I'm not a doctor.
yeah,
I just know that it's a bitch and people need help, and there's a lot of help out here. People just don't feel like, it's something that's accessible to them.
right. So what exactly do you do?
So we own an outpatient drug and alcohol rehabilitation center, basically. So it's
What does that
outpatient
mean?
treatment. You go to outpatient counseling. You come in for 10 hours a week, either 3 nights a week or Saturdays and Sundays. And you come in and you've got group for either 6 to 8 weeks, 10 hours a week. And we break your guts open and we talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk in a room full of a few other people who are in there for the same exact reason, and hopefully try to figure out what the fuck's going on, throw some seeds in there really quickly, try to, you know, plant some coping mechanisms and some problem solving techniques and some relapse triggers and all of these things to, hope that a
How
person can see that, damn, I can actually do this a little bit differently.
how long are the sessions usually?
Well, it's 10 hours a week. So if you do weekends,
Like
it's 5 hours
two?
per session. And
Oh,
then if you
five
do
hours.
night,
Oh, okay, okay.
so Saturday, Sunday, 5 hours each session for 10 hours a week, for six
Are
weeks,
they
8 weeks.
are they getting to pick the time, or do y'all have a
No,
set
it's
time?
it's 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 set time. So it's going to be Saturday, Sunday, 9 to 2 for 6 weeks, or you're going to do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6 to 9 for 6 weeks. If it's
Do they
somebody who's, go ahead.
do they have that option?
They can choose nights or weekends. Yeah, they can pick one or the other. But once you pick, you're in that for the 6 or 8 week program. So you don't get to switch once you pick.
When do y'all are y'all can you jump in on the middle of the week, or y'all like
You
have a
do by
set time to
default.
start?
We start every week. So your first week may be somebody's 6th week, or your first week may be somebody's 4th week. So it's just like a revolving curriculum essentially.
So
Um,
y'all are just talking then.
yeah, it's process group. It's process.
Cause I mean you're not giving like I mean my words are bad a spiel because somebody would hear it already, right? So you're it's everything's new every week.
It is, but it's like it's the same, but it's different every fucking time. Every time. Like, I have a curriculum that I'm supposed to teach for the state for DWI education. So if you get arrested for DWI, I teach the 12-hour education class. Get your
Mm.
license back, da 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 da. Like, the curriculum is the same fucking curriculum I've been teaching since 2002. But every class I teach is just totally different because it's made up of the people who are in there, the situations, the energy, the vibes, the conflicts, the traumas, like, so it is the same thing, but It's not, now for the counselor, oftentimes, you'll regurgitate a lot of the same types of feedback that you give to somebody who may be experiencing something that many other people have experienced too, but
Yeah.
that doesn't change the delivery method or the intention behind the message. So it's freestyle, but it's also got a little bit of an outline, that is obviously followed.
And do you give them like a certificate or something when
Yeah,
they finish?
once they complete, they get a certificate of completion. Most of our clients are usually, with us because they've gotten in trouble legally. So it's a condition of pretrial, condition of probation, condition of like some divorce cases. There's a variety of ways that we get our clients, and then we do get a lot of clients who are just sick and tired of being sick and tired. But yeah, everybody gets a certificate of completion when they're done.
You get sent there for divorce? Like, why would that matter if you're getting divorced?
Like if you're getting divorced from somebody and you have claimed that they have substance abuse issues, he or she's an alcoholic, he or she's doing drugs, like, they need to get some help before I split custody or before, I feel
Mm,
comfortable letting my kid go stay with them overnight or whatever type situation. So you've got clients who, you know, are in situations like that. We get attorneys, we get all kind of folks who have like nurses, people who've had like maybe dirty UAs at work, truck
mm.
drivers, stuff like that.
Do
Um,
people have to pay for this, or is it free?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. You got to pay for it. We're not state funded. We're not a nonprofit. Um, we are probably one of the cheapest places in town, and I say that because, we've been open since 1991. Like we've been able to stay open with being an affordable place for people to get help at. Like, is it cheap? Fuck no. Like, neither is an attorney, right? Neither is drinking, neither is doing fucking drugs. Like those things aren't cheap either. And my dad's philosophy all along the way was, people generally take care of something a little bit better when they pay for it, and that doesn't mean that people who can't pay for it are less deserving of good quality help. It just, when you got to drop $100 a week, sometimes minimum, you gonna sit in that motherfucking room, and you gonna listen, and you gonna participate, and you gonna be on time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that somebody who's getting it for free doesn't have that same type of desire, right? Like, there are thankfully programs out there that do offer stuff for free. And like anything else, it is fucking hard to get into some of those. But we eat a lot of balances. We get a lot of people who get through our program who still owe us money. You don't get a certificate if you haven't paid us, but, many people have gotten through the whole 6 weeks of program and, owed money. We take insurance, we do sliding scale, we do payment plans, so we try to make it like when we get clients who are coming in, of course, for especially court ordered reasons, we know this is not what the fuck they want to do. We know you're already
Yeah.
being strapped with 7,000 minimum, probably from an attorney somewhere. Because if your attorney's telling you to do rehab, you've got a fucking felony. So you're gonna have to cough up some bucks for a felony defense attorney. So to be told that now you gotta go spend $1,000 in rehab, people are like, fuck all this. So then they
Yeah.
come to us and we're like, hey, but we have very good rapport with people. The community knows that we are not a part of the system. We are advocates for clients. We're advocates for getting healthy. We're advocates for staying the fuck off of paper. Like we're advocates for changing the system. And so clients come to us and the majority of people probably don't stay sober once they finish treatment, if they're even sober during treatment. But you gonna get a message. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna
Right.
get some therapy for them weeks that you're with us. So that's
Yeah.
just kind of that's that's what we do, and that's all. So we don't do any inpatient. We don't do detox. We don't do like methadone or Suboxone, any of those types of
What's
management.
inpatient?
Inpatient is where you stay there, like you're checked
Oh,
in, you live there for detox, maybe let's say 5 to 7 days, or like if you're inpatient at a facility, you're there for 28 to 30 days. If it's long term, it's 90 days. So you stay there. Outpatient, like you checking in, you're doing your sessions, and then you're going on about your business when session is over. It's like going to a doctor visit.
right, right. Damn. And is this 7 days a week?
Prior to COVID, we operated 7 days a week. Yeah. Yes, we did.
And do y'all have other people that work there, or is it just y'all?
Prior to COVID, it was me, my sister. the best fucking counselor in the world, and our clergy member. So there was four of us because my dad passed October of 2019, so obviously that left the shell of who was still there. COVID
Right.
happened. Our clergy member, Reverend Rainbow, she's been with us for probably 30 years. Like, she was 82, so she's like, I'm gonna go ahead and not come back to work. And we're like, yeah! Like, she's like, and work for us is family. Like, these are family people. Like, these are
Right.
people who, this is family. We're a family business, but these are our family members, you know. So Rainbow was in, like I said, she was in her 80s, so she didn't come back. We had to shut down for a short time during the beginning of COVID, and then we had to figure out what the fuck we're gonna do to be able to keep the doors open. So
Right.
we've managed to pull together the three of us. So it's just my sister and I, and then our counselor. So it's just the three of us, and really, it's more a lot of, our counselor than anything, because she's running the group. She's doing all the stuff. We're just keeping the fucking doors open and the paperwork taken care of and the bills paid. And
Wow.
it's been tough, man. But the really sad part about it is people fucking need help so badly.
How
And
many
people,
people you usually have in the group?
on any given, non-COVID session, you could have
Mm.
anywhere from, like, say 8 to 20, just depending on how many people were involved during that cycle. Sometimes we've had as few as three.
And
Um,
is it
it just
like
depends.
hi, my name is DJ, and everybody like hi? Is it like that?
I mean, yeah, everybody, there's a big circle that we sit in. I mean, we got coffee and all the things and whatnot. And it just be like, of course, like, introduction is always on the first night of every session because there's new people starting genuinely. And
Mm.
so it's, who are you, and do your daily check-in, or how you get here, what's your story, what's the situation, and then introductions of whoever else, is new that night. Um, and then it just kind of goes from there. So whatever the topic may be, whatever came about in introduction, whatever came about in daily check-in, how was your week? Oh, I had a rough fucking weekend. My wife got into a fight with me, and I wanted to drink. I didn't drink. Okay, so now we talking about this. So it just kind of depends on where it goes after introduction and after check-in. Um, but it's always something every single day, every day. There's not a day that I don't go into the office where I leave there thinking, man, it was so boring today. We just didn't do anything today. Like,
Yeah.
every day is something, but every day, it's easy to say every day you can cry at work when you do what I do. Whether it's the miracle of recovery and somebody fucking getting it and no longer shooting dope, no longer fucking, popping pills, no longer drinking just to fucking, try to stay alive. Like, when people get it, it's either you cry because they get the miracle of recovery, or you cry because they fucking die. And they just don't. They don't get it. They're not gonna get it. So it's crazy how it goes both ways, but it's such a necessary service right now, especially with COVID, and especially with so many people, like, isolated at home, drinking at home now, drinking so much more than they ever drank
Yeah.
before. It's so much depression has increased because people have been removed from their social settings and they're stuck on their computers at home, and their kids in the background, and they don't even fucking like their partner, but now they're stuck with them at home too, so they're fucking drinking and eating more
Yeah.
fucking Xanax, and then you go to get some lunch and you fucking get arrested for a DWI, and now you're in rehab. And it's like, oh
Mm.
my God, how did I get here? you
Yeah,
know?
nah, I feel that because when COVID first started, I was living in Dallas, and my roommate was a flight attendant, but he was like he did like charter planes that
Okay.
really just flew out the country. So this
Oh
nigga
wow.
was
Okay.
it was dope, but it was even
Yeah.
doper because he was never home. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it was like
Right.
I just always had this spot. But I realized me being alone during COVID, I went through so many habits, man.
Really? Okay.
Like there's a part like I'm surprised I'm even still alive. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it wasn't even well, I don't want to say it wasn't nothing bad because for me to say that, that means it was bad, but I was just, I didn't have to do nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like I
yeah.
worked at a refinery, and I was getting like nice unemployments from the Virgin Islands, so I didn't have to do shit,
Oh
you
wow.
know.
Okay. So
And
you weren't working at this time then. Okay. You were stuck at
nah,
home. Okay.
yeah, and
Okay.
so everybody that I really hung out with lived in Dallas. But the
Mhm.
thing that got me is once shit started shutting down, and then like my roommate wasn't there and stuff, and I was literally smoking like an ounce of weed probably every other day.
Oh
But
shit.
I was probably taking at least 24 ecstasy pills like within 3 days. And I was probably doing like an eighth of cocaine every
Oh my
other day or so.
god.
And I was going
Did you sleep at
ham
all? Like, did you sleep in here
barely
anywhere? Like,
during the
oh my
day.
god. I mean, the
During the
weed, I'm sure,
day.
would maybe make you take a nap, but like, oh my god.
It was yeah, it was literally like from like 4 p.m. all the way till like 8 a.m. for like a
Wow.
couple months. And I
Damn.
mean,
Okay.
I would kind of drink, but
Mm-hmm.
I did that, and I started thinking to myself. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I wasn't doing this and not doing shit. I was
Right.
accomplishing a lot of stuff, but I realized I was doing all that because I was not happy with myself.
Yeah.
Like I was doing it in hopes to maybe overdose. But as I was doing it, it felt good. You know what I'm saying? So I was happy.
Right.
But then those times came when like maybe the plug ain't answer, didn't have it, and boy, that depression was like, oh man,
Um.
yo. One time it got so bad, like I told one of my homeboys, like, yo, can you just come over? You know what I'm saying? Like didn't say why, but he could tell by the tone of my voice that all right, sums up. And that's when he told me he was like, man, you take a alarming amount of drugs. I remember I laughed so hard at that just because how he said it, it sounded funny.
Right.
But
Right.
because when somebody says you take a alarming amount,
You're
you're like,
like,
yo,
damn, that's
that's
a
a
lot. So
lot.
I
Yeah.
quantify that by a lot.
Yeah. But as time went on,
That's
I started
tolerance.
thinking. I was just like, man, because this is somebody who like I would do like shrooms and acid with, and we would go out on Sixth Street or either Deep Element and turn the fuck up, and this is like my road dog. So for
Right.
him to tell me
Right.
that,
Like, whoa, whoa,
and
whoa.
but then also the thing was like people didn't really know I was doing coke because I didn't do it around
Right.
people. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Right.
so when he told me that, I knew what he was talking about. But for me, everything resonated. You know what I'm saying? And I was
Yeah.
just like, yo. And weirdly, in that whole transition, I did a shitload of shrooms, and somehow I met Tori. I don't know how I even met her,
Hmm.
but somehow during that
I think from
transition,
my page because I already knew you
probably.
at that time. Yeah.
Probably, yes,
And just,
it had to
people
be.
commenting and just like I mean, because, we would talk, like, we would engage on pages on a
Yeah,
regular basis. And of course, like, at the time, she was super, super, super engaging in my pages and shit like that.
right.
So just by default, seeing the same person's face over and 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 over, and then naturally you end up having conversations with them and you're like, oh shit, we got a lot in common.
Yeah,
I
and
remember that.
yeah, and that's. I mean, that's when I had like a crazy shroom trip. So I had my turning point. But
Hmm.
I'm just saying that I'm I always felt like I have a addictive personality, but I'm always happy, and I mean, I'm not gonna wood that I knew when to stop.
Yeah.
Because for me it's like my mind is so weird that I'm scared to like have really nothing, and I'm also scared to let my mom down.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's
Right.
shit that, and I know that and you know, it's like a lot of people will say, you know, kids and stuff like that. But for me, as depression, you know, as depression hits, you be like, you start thinking that people are. But look at this! I turned this into like a fucking therapy session. Man, let me stop.
That's what I do. I don't know. Somehow that's just usually how that happens. Everything turns into
so,
a session.
so yeah, let me get out of that.
Well, no, I mean, but it's important though because I mean, and I know you want to talk about free thinkers a little bit, but like that's what the fuck we do. Like we normalize conversations because we oftentimes think that like nobody else is going through the same shit or thinking the same shit or could possibly even understand what I'm going through or I sound crazy, but like you fucking don't. You
Yeah,
don't. And that's part of like removing stigma from things and like making a space where it's safe for people to be able to say, damn, like I did a lot of fucking drugs, but
yeah,
I realized some shit. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody is able to do that. There are some people that totally can, but like, nah, I mean, I don't want to keep talking about you. If you don't want to keep talking about you, that's totally not what I'm saying. But it is absolutely okay to normalize these types of conversations because this is what this is what motivates people to get help. Or this is what motivates people to try to like heal themselves and figure out like, damn, like something that he just said resonates with me or something that she just
right.
said resonates with me. So don't ever not want to tell your story, like, or you
Well,
know what I'm saying? Like it's good to talk about it.
well, yeah, I know that, but I just didn't. I didn't want to do it while having you on my podcast. You know what I'm saying? Like, if this was like my second or third time, you know what I'm saying, then maybe. But
Right.
yeah,
No. I mean, but it's a real deal thing, straight up. I mean, it's a real deal thing. Some people struggle with it in different ways. Some people are able to, corral that bitch in and get it under control, but for those that can't or those who are still struggling, like there's a lot of fucking resources out there. I probably should have had some, available to share on the show, but I guarantee if you go on my page, there will be some resources on there. Or if you hit Moke up or hit me up, like I will get you some resources
yeah.
for, services anywhere in Texas, and outside of if I can. So there's lots of resources out there.
So now let's talk about free thinkers.
Free thinkers,
Now
yes.
I've had one of your, was it comrades on here before? I had Imani on here. Um
Yeah. Had Denise shout out.
so explain to me free thinkers, because I know you're one of the free thinker OGs, if you may call it that.
Hmm. Yeah.
So where and how did this start?
So Free Thinkers was not even a rebirth. Free Thinkers was a group that was born from a previous group that a few of us were involved in for many, many years, like Q for far more years than me. Um, and we used to meet every Tuesday night at a coffee shop in Austin, Texas. And and so each Tuesday night, there'd be a different topic and, we would talk. And sometimes there'd be 3 people, sometimes there'd be 8 people, sometimes there'd be 15, 20 people. But, it was a free 8 to 9 p.m. kind of little thing. We'd hang out, talk, shoot the shit. It was open, did that for many, many years. And
So
um,
y'all would literally just like meet up and just kind of
yeah,
just
we would
chit
have
chat about
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, we had a basement at Joe's Genuine Coffee House off of Anderson Lane in Austin, Texas. So
What do
there
you
was a
mean
little
you had a
basement.
basement?
They had like a side room, and it was a basement. It went downstairs, so it
Oh
wasn't like
wow.
underground basement, but it was like considered the basement because it went off
Yeah.
these stairs to go downstairs. So we like that was our room. We had it reserved for every Tuesday night, and so we utilized that space. And so folks would come in, they'd buy their coffee, they get their treats, they'd come on in. We had a private area, closed door, everything, and we'd meet for an hour and a half and we would just talk our shit, our free thing. Or at the time it was a different group name. Progressively over the course of time, like, just things happened and there was a big fight one night and it involved me. And after that night, I was not going to return. I got into it with one of the birth folks of that particular group, and I'm just like, I'm done. Um, Couple weeks later, it was proposed to me that we start a new group, and I was like, pig in shit happy. I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, like, oh my god, you actually want to do this with me? So me and Q, and Prince at the time sat down and talked about the concept of starting a new group,
And so the other group was still going.
yeah, they still continue. Well, there was problems obviously after this blow up after a Tuesday night meeting one night. So
Mm-hmm.
some folks have never returned. Some folks ended up, going back to the original meetings that were had before we then created Free Thinkers. But there were those of us who were never going to go back to that particular meeting, but
Right.
obviously didn't want to stop because why the fuck would we stop? I just never thought about doing it on my own, and then Q and Prince were like, "Hey, what do you think?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah! Like let's get it," because it's the years that I had been involved, it was therapy. Like I'm
Right.
not ready to give this up. So we sat down at a table at fucking Buffalo Wild Wings, and somewhere Free Thinkers came out of my mouth, and Q was like, "I like it," and I
So
was like,
what were
"Fuck
y'all
yeah,
called
let's
at
do it."
first?
We didn't. The former group.
Yeah.
The former group was called Meeting of the Minds,
Mm.
and they still meet. I believe that they're still a weekly meeting, so they still do their thing. We of course broke off, and then Free Thinkers was born.
Yeah.
So we've now had Free Thinkers for 4 years. We didn't go online and like have an actual online show with this until
Mm.
COVID started. We were still doing every Tuesday night at the coffee shop. So yeah,
Interesting.
so me and Q got together and had a baby called Free Thinkers.
That's the. I actually have I got Q coming out here June 10th. That's
Oh, I'm so happy. He's a
I'm
great
scared of
interview.
that. I'm scared of that.
Yeah. Nah,
Cause,
that'll
cause,
be a good
cause,
ass
'cause he,
interview.
man, nah. Cause I say that because one time when I was living in Dallas, when I first started, it was actually when that time when that white dude with the quadriplegic girlfriend got shot.
Yeah.
Remember when that
Yeah.
shit
Yeah.
happened
Yeah.
here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was when that happened. And on that episode, I gained the courage to call.
Mhm.
And when I called, one, he got my name wrong. And then
Oh
two,
no.
I was I had just got done smoking. So I was just like all over the
Right.
place. And I
Right.
remember somebody in the comments, it could have been Q, could have been Q, I don't know. But it
Uh-huh.
said, get him off of here. and
No. No, Q
and
wouldn't have said that. Oh my god.
somebody put get him off of here. And
You
that
must have been
fucked me up.
texting him. No, I can't believe that. That's
And so
funny.
right, it was. And I mean, hey, I if I would have heard me, I would have probably said get him off of here too.
Oh my
But
god.
that let me know I could not be calling in on no bullshit. Cause I was probably calling on some
Right.
bullshit.
Right, right. I mean, in truth be told, there are some shows where you can definitely, that is probably like the tone. And ours can be very light and funny and comical, but like we definitely get in there. Like
Right.
we not finna waste no hour and a half. You know what I'm saying? Like we
Right,
finna
right,
talk
yeah,
talk.
yeah.
That's why I always hashtag let's talk because we finna talk.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Wow.
Free Thinker's been around for about 4 years now, and we've
And you
obviously grown.
and y'all still meet up? I mean, I know y'all
Not
do it
in
online
person.
now.
No, not in person because of COVID. No, it was just,
Okay,
there's obviously not enough people
so
to want to commit.
so now, okay, so y'all used to meet up and do it,
Hmm.
but do you feel that it's more fruitful now that you do it over lives and streams and stuff like that? Because it's
Well,
connected with more people versus it just being the four of y'all just chopping it up?
it just depends really on what you want out of it, right? Because there are some times where we we know that there are people who literally only watch and never participate because of a million reasons, you know? So for that, it's cool to be able to offer something online so that, you know, people who actually maybe want to hear what you're talking about actually have, you know, the ability to hear what's being said and, you know, take information and do their own research or whatever the case may be. So we love that aspect because you can reach other people. You know, there's a lot of people on Free Thinkers that I never would have met had we not taken it online. So I love it for that part. But most people who are like the original, like Austin members of Free Thinkers, definitely miss the in-person vibe because it wasn't broadcasted online, and what you said in the room was private, and the only people who knew it, you know, was said was those that were also in the room.
Yeah.
You know, so in Q and I, we've talked, you know, many times about doing like some Tuesday nights where it's closed, where we do meet online, but we don't broadcast live. So it's literally just a conversation of those of us who actually came to the conversation.
So it's not a podcast.
It's not a podcast in the aspect of it's not downloaded to be uploaded to like some kind of streaming service. But I mean, you know, some people call it a podcast, but by definition of podcast, no, you know. So for it being online, you know, a lot of times I just refer to it as the show. Now, you know,
Okay.
once we take it to the download and upload aspect, then hell yeah, I think it'd be safe to call it a podcast because that's what it is.
Why don't you?
Because I just haven't taken the initiative to figure that part out. Like I've got quite a bit of stuff uploaded to YouTube, but I just haven't, you know, done any type of research, honestly, and commitment to a certain format to get it up somewhere. That's the only reason. Just haven't done it. Want
how,
to, need to, but just haven't.
how do y'all come up with your topics?
Sometimes it's just freestyle. You know, sometimes we base the topics on like current events, what's happening. A lot of people like relationship conversations. A lot of people like, you know, like growth types of conversations, controversial conversations, conspiracy theory type things. And then like lately what we've been doing is just we call pick a post. So people just go on the page, pick a post, something that you want to talk about, bring it to
Yeah.
Tuesday night, and then we talk about it. And so that's, I mean, and that's cool too, because that's what we're doing on the page is talking about it. We're just doing it now, you know, in person. Well, not in person, but, you know, person to person versus just typing it and reading what somebody writes.
So if we were to have a free thinkers conversation, what would it be? Well, what would the topic be? Like, let's have a mini free thinkers conversation.
A mini free thinkers
Anything.
conversation. I mean, shit, we could talk about the, you know, the pros and cons to, you know, having podcast shows. We could talk about, you know, the strategies involved in running a good podcast and how do you get information? Where do you come up with your questions? You know, we could talk about anything, and that's just it with free thinkers. We literally, like this last Tuesday, just Tuesday, we talked about Christian swingers, you know, so like,
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
yeah,
How is that even how are you still a Christian?
that was the conversation. Like, can you be a Christian and be a swinger? Like, how, you know, so there
Like
was actually a show.
you really can't even be a Christian and be the president.
Why?
Because
What in the what in the Ten Commandments?
you got to order to kill.
Well, yeah, thou shalt not kill.
And it's a man-made war over
Yeah,
oil and shit or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the Ten Commandments was really what we kind of based the answer on is the fact that like the Ten Commandments includes adultery. And, you know, and Q had mentioned, well, what if the couple has, you know, agreed in their relationship to swing with other people? And it's like, yeah, that's all fine. Like, you know, most everybody supports you doing whatever you want to do in your consensual adult relationship,
Right.
right? But like the definition of adultery is having sex with somebody outside of your marriage.
Yeah.
And even if you agree to do it, like you're still committing adultery. So for me, by definition, you can't be a Christian and a swinger if you're literally doing it by definition. But then, of course, it
Right.
got into the conversation of, oh, well, but like, what about this situation? And what about this situation? So this is where it gets into the cherry picking of, the religious part that I, of course, have a problem
Are
with.
are you? What are you?
Nothing like no Christian. I'm not Christian. I'm not atheist. I'm not
Okay.
agnostic.
I
Like
I was
I'm not any of those things.
I was gonna ask you that because I was raised Christian, and then as I got older, I don't want to say I'm an atheist, but I do believe in a higher power. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I do
Right.
believe that that everything is put here by
Yes.
something.
Yes.
But
Right.
what I don't believe, and I was talking about this the other day, that when people talk about going to heaven, right?
Mhm.
So here's my question. If I'm going to heaven, if we're all going to heaven,
Mhm.
which one of me is going to heaven? Am I going to heaven at the age I died at? Am I going to heaven, like new or whatever? And then
Right.
if you go to heaven and reunite with your family, what if you lived a very righteous, good life, but you had five secret families? Now, when these women meet, and you see what I'm saying? Like a lot of stuff doesn't,
Mhm.
for me, not trying
Mhm.
to sway nobody, but for me, a lot of stuff doesn't make sense. Like,
Mhm.
like, am I gonna see my grandma at 87 years
Right.
old? You know what
Right.
I'm
Or
saying?
am I gonna see my
Like,
grandma as a baby?
yeah,
Yeah, and that's interesting that you mentioned that because that's really something I don't think I've thought about before.
right.
But
I don't think
like,
nobody thought about that shit.
I mean, yeah, because they don't tell you shit, right? They just tell you,
Right,
if anything, oh, do this so that you go to heaven. But they don't tell you, like, they don't tell you nothing.
right.
Um, yeah, I'm not atheist because I believe in a God of some sort. Like I'd
Hmm.
be absolutely foolish to think that like something that we just came here from space particles, right? Like, so for
Right,
me, I believe in the universe. And because I was raised with parents who were so heavily involved in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, like the higher power, that's all the fuck I know. So thankfully, I wasn't raised in a religious background at all. But, our church was 12 steps. Our church was an AA meeting. That's kind of how that went. So I was always raised with higher power aspect. And then coming into my adulthood, identified with energy and emotions and feelings and vibrations and frequencies and shit like that, universe stuff like
mm,
that. So I never identify as atheist or necessarily even agnostic because I'm not void of some type of belief. Like I do believe some creation of some sort out there
right.
exists. But like I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in the Bible. I don't believe in the story of Jesus. Like I don't believe in those things. I don't. Um, so those conversations happen a lot, with free thinkers because I'm, you know, I'm not religious at all, but Q is definitely follows Christian principles, so he's super open minded and free thinking. But then sometimes people say, well, how can you be a Christian and also be a free thinker? Well, this is why we have the conversations that we have to be able to like speak for people who are in those places.
And that's true because I myself, like I said, I feel like I'm nothing either, but I still follow some Christian values. And sometimes even if you ask, just to like if somebody asks like, you Christian? I'm like, yeah.
Oh,
Because
really? Yeah.
because from time to time I still follow the values. From time to time I still pray to God or my ancestors. You know what I'm saying?
Well, praying
So
to your ancestors though isn't a Christian thing.
I know,
Praying
but
to God is, what do you follow? What do you follow that you believe would make that makes you feel like you are following like Christian beliefs? What do you do that makes you say that?
um that I pray to God
Okay.
and
It
ask him
okay.
shit and shit like that.
Okay.
And I
But are you praying to God as you understand that, or are you praying to God as, God, Jesus,
Well,
I talk out.
I,
One of the things that Smack always says is when you pray to God, whose voice do you hear in return?
now, here's the thing. I catch myself sometimes if I pray, say, "Dear Jesus," I stop myself, and then
Okay.
I say, "God." I know that's very stupid to say. Now that I think about it,
Well, no,
but
not necessarily.
but see, I don't pray to Jesus. I pray to God, but it's like my routine prayer. You know what I mean? Like, just, dear God, please let me have a good day today. Thanks for waking me up. Shit like that.
That doesn't make you a Christian. And I'm not the one to be like, I'm not
No,
the judge of Christians, right? Because
but,
I'm
but
that
but
one. So maybe, but I'm like, that doesn't make you a Christian. That just means
but
that you
see,
talking out loud and you putting that energy into the world and you want that shit to like reverberate, around your world and get that good day coming back to you. You know what I'm saying? But like, are you praying to God and asking for forgiveness and salvation and like? And I say this
I
with a
mean,
horrible tone. I don't know why, but
within a week, I have asked for forgiveness. Within a week,
yeah, yeah,
I have.
yeah.
But see, some of it is just out of habit of what I have
Sure.
done. And
Yeah, yeah.
now when I said I was a Christian, I was gonna list off all these things, but then I didn't because a lot of it is just morally being a good person.
That's why I asked, what do you follow that
Yeah,
makes you say
yeah,
that?
yeah.
You're not running around beating motherfuckers up. That's a good thing. That doesn't make you a Christian. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
Like you take care of your kids. That makes you a good father. That doesn't make you a Christian. And,
True.
and that's why I asked. Because I feel like there's like a meme I read years ago, quote I read years ago. I'm sure you've probably seen it at some point, and it says something like, if you need religion to be a good person, like you're probably not a good person by yourself.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
And
So
that's true. I think for me it's just habits that was practiced as
yeah,
a child and teen because there's sometimes
right.
I fucking get the craving and I will like miss going to church sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Just to have that feeling of the
Right. So
nostalgia. But it
what
has
are
to
you
be
missing? What are you missing? Are you missing the unity? You're missing oftentimes the energy that happens when
yeah.
spirits collide and you hear that message and it feels good and it brings up your frequency, and so you reach this level of like, oh my god, this vibration feels so much fucking better. Well, that's why we do free thinkers, because for a lot of us,
Mm,
we weren't going to church. We, some people did, but a lot of us were people who really did enjoy being able to have real, honest, raw conversations with other people and feeling that sense. I would leave Tuesday nights and I'm like, damn, I feel like I went to church. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
so a lot of the times it is those things that people identify with. And, I say, unfortunately, we usually just get them to church. And the reason I say unfortunately is not because I'm shitting on the church, but it's because there are so many other avenues that people can get that community support. And it doesn't have to be community, but we're talking about like more than just me, right? Like numerous
Yeah.
people who are like on the same page type shit. Going to church makes you feel like a normal human being again. Going to church, when you sit next to people who are going through some fucked up shit and they feeling good and you feeling good, like it makes you feel accepted again. You know what I'm saying? But then at the same time, how many times do you go to church and leave and you feel worse? You feel like you have been judged. You feel like you are a sinner. You feel like you ain't fucking gonna make it to heaven.
Yeah,
Um,
I knew my days of going to church was over when I was smoking before church. And that's what I was like, all
well,
right, DJ, you're done, man.
but so the question became in this conversation about, can you be a swinger and a Christian? Like, can you be a prostitute and be a Christian? Can you be a dope boy and be a Christian? Can you beat your wife and children and still be a Christian? And so for what it was worth, even though I feel like the definition of swinging obviously breaks the code of the adultery, you
Yeah.
know, commandment, um, I don't think that that means that if you are a Christian and you do engage in that type of sexual relationship, that it makes you a bad person or any less of a Christian. You know what I'm saying? Like you can still love the Lord and do all the good things and want all the good things and feed the homeless and give to the poor. I mean, there's so many things that you can still do, and so that's kind of what the conversation consisted of: is are you doing Christ-like things? Are you living in sin and saying, oh, but God is okay with this, or would God not be okay with this? And me personally, I come from a place where as long as it's consensual between adults, it ain't hurting. It ain't hurting you. You just don't like what I do. Or you may not like who I am or who I'm sleeping with or what my sexual appetite may be. Because for a lot of people, like you said, growing up in the church, a lot of that shit gets oppressed and repressed, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, I always get in trouble for sounding like I'm bagging on the church, and like I'm not bagging on the church
No,
because the
you
church has
can
been
because
but
the
it's been a
church
significant
it
place
has.
for a lot of
But
people.
I remember one instance. I know that it says thou shalt not judge or only God can judge. I don't know, maybe that might be a Tupac song. But thou shalt not
Tupac.
judge. Thou shalt not judge. There was one time in the church when my brother had his oldest daughter. They told him since he wasn't married, he couldn't come back to the church.
What was the denomination? I'm curious.
It was 7 Day Adventist. We
Mm.
go to church on Saturdays.
Saturdays. Yep.
Yeah,
Some of
and
them run a tight ship, man. Some of them run a little bit of a different ship.
right, and yeah, and it was and my mom was like, "Fuck that, we ain't fuck with them." But it was, but how you judging somebody?
That's what they do. That's the part I don't understand. I mean, that's one of the parts I don't understand about the hypocrisy of religion. Like, how dare you? How dare you? Like,
Yeah.
you take something like, the Catholic, you know, history of Catholicism. I just learned, like, on Free Thinkers this past Tuesday, I didn't really know. Like, I knew nuns obviously didn't get married and shit like that, right? But, like, I
Mm,
really guess I never thought about, like, popes and stuff like that. Because, like, I'm not religious. I didn't grow up in a religious place. I never studied
right.
religion. I didn't, I haven't really cared. So I just didn't know. But when I learned that, like, the men that are in, the Catholic religions, they are not to get married, I was like, oh, fuck. And then somebody was like, now you wonder why they've been fucking little boys for all these years. They got all these goddamn sexual
Mm.
frustrations pent up. Like, why can they not get married,
Why not just fuck with the nuns?
I mean, it'd be great. Like you have all of the same common interests. Like, would not, you can't find a more perfect partner. Goddamn.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So shit like that. But I think one of the tenets or whatever you call it in the Catholic religion is you can't forbid marriage or something from people, but they're like forbidding the Pope and the preachers and the fathers or whatever they are, to not get married in the Catholic religion. And they will allow gay people to come to their churches, but they will not marry gay people. Like, they don't recognize gay marriage. Like, so there's just so many
Yeah.
parts about religion for me that are very hypocritical, that are very based in bigotry and patriarchy. That it just does not work for me. It does
Right.
not work for me,
Same.
and it does not work for me in trying to motivate me to live a good life when you're fucking lying, when you're scheming and you are cheating on your wife, or your wife is cheating on you and she runs the women's services, and y'all embezzling
Yeah.
money and doing drugs and sleeping with the people in the choir. Like, no, no. And people always say, oh, but Christians, we're not perfect people. No, none of us are. Like, none of us are. But we live in a Christian fucking nation. We live in a country, we live in a society where our laws are based on Christian fucking principles.
Yeah.
It's fine for Christians to want to feel however they want to feel about homosexuality, transgender relationships, gay marriage, anything for that matter. Like, you can feel however you want. I might not like it or agree with it, but you're entitled as a human to feel how you want. But when our laws govern our bodies, when those when those beliefs cause us to not be able to get married to a partner that we've loved, who we've been committed to. We can't adopt a child because maybe it's a gay marriage. We can't um, you know prior to get into serving the military. I mean, just all these different things. How the fuck you gonna sit up here and tell me that I can't do these things and get a pass to heaven? But you can do all this fucked up shit 7 days a week. Walk up in
Yeah,
here on Sunday, ask for a little bit of forgiveness, throw some change in the bucket, and you get a pass. Like, why are we not just all loving everybody and trying to help and grow and fix and heal the places that need to be, healed, right?
yeah,
So religion for me is like the greatest divide and conquer tool. So I have a bit of an aversion to religion. I understand why people are religious. I understand the benefits that people get out of their religion, and I do think that religion is a fantastic thing for people who do follow, but it
right,
can be very dangerous.
right. Yeah, I always feel that sometimes people need something to believe in. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And something to work for, I guess, if you should say. But yeah, very very dangerous. Just like how I see just like crazy, really white religious people who are racist as fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it never makes sense to me. But I'm just like, oh well, that's
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
even then,
whatever.
Smack, if we had Smack on here, he would be like, "So God just let those people exist? Like,
Right.
wouldn't God not want those people to be around so that we do have a more harmonious place that we're all living side by side in?" But then, a lot of people will say, "Oh, but you have free will and blah 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 and all these things." And
Yeah.
it seems
And
like it
see,
really shouldn't have been that complicating, and it's been made complicated.
and heaven doesn't seem like it's free will. It seems like everybody's just brainwashed, like to be very good. And to me, it seems kind of boring.
Yeah, heaven doesn't really seem like I mean, shit. I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the deciding factor once them gates apparently opens. Like, you've been sinning your whole goddamn life. You
Yeah.
asked for forgiveness yesterday. Do you have to ask within 30 days of expiration date? Like, at
See,
what
but
point do you?
I was taught that as long as you do it before you die, you good.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is then I always thought to myself, I was living with that for a while. I was like, yo, if I ask for forgiveness before I die, I'll be straight. But then I started thinking, God knows all, so He knows that I'm only asking for forgiveness because I'm about to die. Like I may not really mean
I'm trying to get
it.
in. Right? I don't know what I'm apologizing for. I'm just doing it because, like, I want to
Yeah,
go to your house.
yeah.
Like,
And
because
so
they've painted hell to be such this horrible place. Like, well, I don't want to go there, but
yeah,
I don't know. Do you actually want to go there? Well, or does this motherfucker even exist? Or, there's so many theories. My theory, for a long time growing up, I used to say that we already are living in hell. So if we make it past, if we make it to our expiration date, whatever the next step is, we're automatically getting a ticket there because we made it through this raggedy motherfucker on Earth. You
yeah.
know what I'm saying?
I always called this purgatory, or I called it the waiting room. And when you
Yeah.
die is when you really live.
Yeah, the waiting
Yeah,
room. I like that.
yeah.
I
That's
like that.
that's the way it feels. But we're like an hour and 20. Do you have any last words? Last words?
No, I don't. I have lots of words always, but no real last words in particular, man. Just
Like plug-in
I
free thinkers? Like,
I mean, of course, I was thinking of something to say along the lines of, empowering, people to
oh yeah.
just make decisions that are going to be good for you in the short term and in the long run. My dad passed away just a little over a year and a half ago now, and I've been in grieving mode every single day since then, and I didn't really know that. Like, I did, but I didn't. You know what I'm saying? Um, And grief looks like a lot of different things. I know we've talked about this, a bit, back in the past. But grief is different to people. So, just if something feels off, if something feels like it doesn't feel like you, if something feels like it's getting too big, do reach out to your people, reach out to your helpers, reach out to your networks, reach out to your advisors, reach out to somebody, man, because so many people are feeling stuck right now,
Yeah.
with no one to turn to, and there's so very much people to turn to. Free thinkers is open for everybody. I mean, it's all walks of life. We don't give a shit where you come from. Don't come up and there's a pedophile, because we probably gonna have a problem. Other than that, or a racist. You're probably not going to make it very long as a racist in Free Thinkers. You're definitely not going
Right.
to make it with me in Free Thinkers. But Free Thinkers is a fantastic group. It's for everybody. We talk about all kinds of topics. Um, we meet every Tuesday night, at 8 o'clock Central. We go from 8 to 9:30. But every day we've got posts on the page. We have conversations happening on the page. Our Tuesday night show is a live session, so you can call in or StreamYard in, just kind of like how we're doing here, and be involved in the conversation, or you can participate in the comments and the chats. And it's so cool because, me and Q been doing this for a long time, him way longer than me. But, just when we're like, man, we've had this topic like 20 times,
Yeah.
we'll be off of the show, and and our inboxes will be hit left and right with like, damn, that was such a
Yeah.
good show, I needed that. So come check us out on Free Thinkers every Tuesday night. Unfortunately, our time runs when your time runs, so you never get to come into Free Thinkers
I know,
anymore.
man. I know.
You never
I'm
get to.
I've been juggling with the idea of some weeks just doing like a Thursday show and not a
Oh
Tuesday and
yeah,
Thursday show.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
think the way my schedule is looking like I'm probably gonna start doing that in June. So I may
Oh,
make
that's
some
what's up.
appearances.
Yeah, we would love to have you on there, man. Like we need everybody's energy. It's not about if you know a lot of stuff or don't. Like, man, and you never know. And then as soon as we get like a different personality on there, man, other people show up and they're like, oh, I need it.
Yeah,
So it's a great community. We do a lot of things. We support each other. The podcasting has definitely been a fantastic family. With you, we've had a lot of cross people going between you and us and Black Tea Talk, and
yeah,
it's just been a cool ass thing. So I appreciate everybody who has supported, anybody who's watching, anybody who joins. People who contribute to all of our platforms. I appreciate your time, bringing me on here, let me run my yap.
yeah, yo. I thank you for being on here, and and I try not to say things in vain, because when I tell people, because there are some episodes where I would tell somebody like, hey, we need to do this again. There's some episodes where I may not do it, and that's nothing against anybody,
Right,
but
right.
I really want to have you back on because I do want to talk about other shit. Like I really want to get to like current events and other things like that. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I
I'd love
really
it.
I really do, and maybe because we could do like a merge show, like me and Missing That. We did that one time. Like our podcast going the same time, and when
Oh yeah.
I booked her for mine, and then she just kind of she did hers. Like we both just shared it. So maybe
Yeah.
we could do that one
Yeah.
day.
Hell yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're always down to try anything on Free Thinkers, and we're like, and we want to network with our folks. So
Yeah,
any way we can support each other, hell yeah. Like, and it's just cool because a lot of people are used to shows that talk about pop culture and that talk about music or that talk about
right.
certain topics, and we just kind of don't. It is whatever the fuck comes to the table Tuesday morning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And it can be anything. So like, we're not different than a lot of other people, but we really put, our spirit and our emotions and our everything into trying to have a safe group, an honest group, an authentic group, but also a very protective group too. Like
yeah,
we cut for each other. So yeah, that'd
yeah.
be cool to run together a little bit, make it work. So one way or another.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you for being on.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's it. Thanks for having me. And I will see you probably tomorrow on Black Tea Talk.
Yes, I will be there. It may not
Yep.
say that I'm there, but I'll be there.
Right. Oh shit, you're in jail. Wait, you're in jail for
Yeah,
how long? Oh, a week.
till
Okay.
next Thursday. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, have a good night.
You too. See you.
All right. See y'all later.
Bye. Moke friends, that was Nicki Davy. Yes, if you're wondering about the way this is streaming, shout out Josh, my co-host, who's never on the show. Shout out Josh for making this work. But my regular page, I'm in Facebook jail for what 7 days for saying some COO for saying some shit. um, thank y'all for watching. Yeah, shout out my guest Nicki Davies. Shout out Free Thinkers. I need to get on there one day. Shout out everybody watching, everybody who supported the Moke Man. I'm out.